This morning I want to conclude our series on losing my religion by rediscovering faith. Now, over these last few weeks, we've really been searching for the notion that what is about these previous weeks that now bring us to today? What makes up faith in the first place? Well, faith is not about everything that we've talked about over these past few weeks. Sorry to spoil it for you now. But faith is more than the sum of rediscovering those things like the church, or rediscovering where we fit in, or rediscovering what we believe, or rediscovering how we behave. You see, faith is rediscovering how we live. I want to go take us on a trip here, if we could, in our imaginations. I want us to get on a nice big bus. We're going to go up to the 101, and there's this really nice big tall place there. It's off on the east side of the road there. You all know what I'm talking about? What's that one big place? They have these machines that you can go in there. You can pull. What's the name of that place? I knew someone would know the name of that place. Isn't that your kid? I want to take us on a trip to a casino. Many of us have been there. We don't have to hide under the pews. Many of us have lost a lot of money when we should have put it in the offering plate or helped someone out with it. But what is it about those slot machines? They used to call them a one-arm bandit. Those things that you put coins in and you pull the arm down and go. In the old days, you'd also, if you hit a jackpot, you'd go ching, 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 ching. Now you just get a stupid old card that says how many credits you have in the first place, and you have to go cash in the card. I've heard about this. Any space underneath the pew? Where am I getting at with this? What does it have to do when it comes to these jackpots in the first place? Yeah, I think that's why we keep going, or maybe that's the draw of these slot machines, or even the draw of taking risk in general, is at some point in time, we hit the jackpot. Woo-hoo! We got $100 or $50 or $1,000. We celebrated with that joy of winning something big, or maybe it's just even the promise. You know, if I just sit here long enough, sure enough, I'm going to win something. I think faith could sometimes be like that jackpot machine too, with the one-armed bandit, the slot machine that's before us. There's that one time when our faith really just came through for us. We hit the jackpot when we prayed and the prayer was answered. We hit the jackpot in our faith when we realized that we were going through some struggling times, and it all came out just fine and dandy. You see, there's times where we bank on our faith that way, like we do a slot machine. But again, we perhaps even count upon the notion that sometime down the road, something good's going to happen. Our faith is going to come through for us. But faith is more than a gamble. Faith is more than a crapshoot. Faith is more than just some sort of hold 'em and toss 'em in the river. And those are gambling terms, by the way, that I read about in the book. You see, what we're asked to really do in our journey of faith is to rediscover faith for us. This is an endless, ongoing process. And the disciples one day come up to Jesus and they say to him, "Increase our faith. Increase our faith. Make us a little bit more faithful, Jesus. We know who you are." And his response to him really is on the contrary. Jesus looks at his disciples, and he might have just started laughing, and he said in the first place, as he looks at them, "Don't you all have enough faith in the first place? What audacity do you have to come to me to ask for more faith? Why don't you just use the faith that you have in the first place? Don't you have enough faith already?" You see, what matters is not the quantity of our faith, but to put the faith into action that we have in the first place. The point is that these disciples didn't need more faith. Rather, they needed to understand that the faith that they have enables God to work into a person's life in ways that defy those ordinary human experiences. It's that moment when something just hits it right. See, the saying is not about being able to do those miraculous works or to do those spectacular tricks that Jesus did. On the contrary, Jesus assures his disciples that with a little faith that they can just live by his teachings, that they too will understand what it means to be a follower of Jesus. You see, before they even got to that point, there was a day when Jesus is walking along the side of Galilee, and he didn't start pointing fingers and saying, "Hey, have faith! Hey, you over there, have faith! Yo, you two brothers, quit fighting with each other, have faith!" No, what did Jesus say? Follow me. Follow me. Jesus said, "Follow me," and he started to display these miracles of wonders, these acts of kindness. Then he started to tell the disciples, "Go and do likewise." And then he sent them out on their own, 2 by 2, as we read. And they go out and they live, they teach like Jesus did. And they come back to check in with Jesus one day for a board meeting. And they're excited. "You won't believe what happened." And Jesus is going, "Well, I told you, if you do these things, something good might happen." They celebrate in the very midst that they become to understand of what had happened in their faith, that they were proclaiming and living out the kingdom of God, which was already before them. You see, Jesus didn't tell them to go have faith. He pushed them in the world, into the world, to practice, to live out their faith. The disciples didn't hope that the world would change. They changed it. And in doing so, they themselves were changed. It's been taught that, first we come we believe, and then somehow that might change our behavior, and when our behavior changes, then we start to treat each other fair. We often run the church that way. We say, when you're all ready to believe, then we'll bring you into membership in the life of the church. When you're all ready to accept all our bumps and bruises and how we reach out to all people, no matter what flavor of the world that they come from, then we'll let you be a part of who we are. You got to become like us first before you can fit in. Or rather, on the contrary, as Jesus was sending the disciples out in the world, he was showing them a model that people just need to come and to connect and to belong. And then we'll walk together. We'll walk alongside each other, and then we will come to learn what we believe. You see, the whole idea about it in the first place was this journey that we come to belong, feel accepted. And because of that action, we can believe in that behavior, in the action that was displayed to us. Rediscovering faith is really a reversal, a great returning of Christianity back toward what Jesus was preaching in the first place by his actions. Furthermore, what he preached about was being beloved and beloving. This was a community that he was building, and he said, we can love one another just as we have been loved. It's a life of practice. It's a life that we practice inside the world and in the world and to the world. It's a profound trust in God that eagerly anticipates God's reign and mercy and justice before us all. So how do we apply faith? How do we move this sycamore tree that's before us that we hear in the scriptures? You see, just as I've read a few things about gambling, I've read a few things about sycamore trees too. I understand that sycamore trees, their roots run deep, very deep into the ground, and they grow pretty tall up into the sky. What faith it must take to say to that tree, jump into the river, and it'll jump and land into the river. I've had 2 teenage sons for many years here, and trying to make them jump half the time is nothing that comes close to a sycamore tree or a mountain. But you see, we're called to live out our faith, and in living out our faith, we discover the faith that's in us. John Wesley was having a bad day in his faith one day, and he went to his mentor by the name of Peter Bowler. Peter said to him, "You know, I understand that you're not the most perfect person, John, but I want to encourage you when you get up to preach faith, just do that. Preach faith like you have faith, and then you'll preach faith because you have faith." Now some might say, "Oh, dance and go through the motions until you figure it out in the first place." No. Live it out, because you expect every time you pull that handle of grace, God's love is going to pour out before you. And live that out every moment and every drop of your life. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he's another theologian of German descent, has said that Jesus does not call people to a new religion, but to life. I had a person in another congregation, she said, "Yeah, that's why we're called to be human beings, not human doings." Rediscovering faith is a great awakening of a spirit that's in us and me and in the church that brings a change of transformation to the lives and to the communities that are around us. It's an awakening that is not only a love of God and neighbor, but it is an awakening of justice. It's a new spiritual movement, that rehearsal of paradise that's in our midst now and in the not yet. It's a reawakening, rediscovering that God is with us in this world. There's a group of us that's been reading of this book on Wednesdays called Love Wins, and one of the chapters had to do with the destination of heaven. We always think that heaven is somewhere off there, or up there, or somewhere where we're not. But really, the presence of God's kingdom is before us all of the time. And Jesus said that's what we live out in that reawakening. Historically, we've gone through these great awakenings as a society, and they say the first one happened right before the American Revolution. This is an awakening of the things that were before us as a country as we began to develop, and then shortly thereafter that, in those early decades of this new American Republic, we began to experience what was called a Second Great Awakening. Third Great Awakening happened in the early 1920s as the United States became this industrial power, and now it seems like we are entering into now a Fourth Great Awakening of our culture and society. It seems over the last 50 years we've undergone what is now a techno-evolution. This is both a cultural phenomenon that is now moving us beyond the time that we call post-modernity. Often folks refer to this as being a new frontier that we're embarking upon. And so now what is considered the Fourth Great Awakening in our society, it's a realization of who we are as a world and as a country within the economical structures that are around us. Faith is this emerging element then that binds people together, not based anymore on religion, unfortunately, but now on emotion. What moves you? What compels you? You see, where before religion was the very core of this country, it now seems that we're based on the pieces that connect us together with one another. And I'm not sure if that's not bad, but possibly good. You see, as one sociologist puts it, the Fourth Great Awakening results in this more experiential, holistic, pluralistic, it's an us, not a them type of thinking anymore. It's a focus that reminds us that we are more communal in our politics and in our religion. It's a way of being filled with an empathy for everyone else. It's not just saying it's about me. It's as it has been preached that God is found in the unity of all things. Several years ago, the Cleveland Clinic wanted to bring its staff into such a way to understand that the people's lives that cross their paths every day mean something significant. As we begin to close this message this morning, I want you to sit back and watch this teaching clip that the Cleveland Clinic put out to its employees to help them understand what it means to walk into the shoes of someone else, but maybe to be a part of their heart and to understand the emotions in which they're going through. what you're feeling right now is called empathy. To be with someone. To not feel their pain, but to at least understand that something significant and profound is happening in their lives. It's connecting at an emotional level. If the first great awakening of our country had to do with religious identity, and where the second revolution had to do with our American identity, and then the third great awakening had to do with a technological or an industrialization of our country that provided a sense of momentum, it is this fourth great awakening that we are now entering into. One that connects all of us, not just a few, but all of us, in a journey that goes beyond the Holy Week, a journey that goes beyond a Good Friday and to the Easter. But it is a journey of our faith in which we hear the voice of the divine say to you, I believe in you. I have faith in you. And that, my friends, is what is called faith. When someone stretches out their arms before you and says, I believe in you. Let the church say, Amen.